Uh, Coming now, come on. Time's up. Time's up.
Hello, everybody, and thank you guys for joining us today. My name is Victor, and I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Jeffrey Young, for another Planet Podcast. Jeff, how's it going today, man?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Getting through February, starting to see a little bit more daylight, which means we're getting closer to warmer weather. How you doing, man?
Not too bad, dude. Actually, it was beautiful out today, man. It was almost like 47 degrees. So, like, if I can coast the rest of this out like under zero, dude, I'm in a really good place.
Yeah, no, I hear you. We got snow last week, and it's melting away slowly.
Nice, nice.
But yes, looking forward to much warmer weather and being done with this.
I hear you, man. I hear you. So, again, we're not here to talk about the weather, although, you know, it is always interesting to hear other people's perspective. One of the things I want to talk about today, Jeff, is what I'll call education, certification. One of the things, and the reason this kind of comes up is one of the things we're kind of kicking around here is, kind of a series of workshops within Verify to be able to get customers going. We do a ton of free trials here. That's one of the things we pride ourselves on, is being able to interact with our customers, being able to give out those free trials to those customers so they know that the application can do what they want to do. But much like me, I'm one of those people. I don't like to be bothered all the time. I like to be able to kind of figure things out on my own. I'm a very hands-on type of person. I'm not a huge, like, I'm going to sit through an hour-long training session and learn a bunch of stuff. And I think that, that goes for a lot of people. So we're kind of kicking the idea of really just kind of building a series that, it's kind of like, hey, you got Verify. Well, now what do I do with it? Just general, how to run some reports, how to schedule things, and just really how to get yourself going. So that was kind of one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you today from a learning perspective, from an education perspective. There's certifications. There's all kinds of certifications out there. There's self-taught information. For you, tell me a little bit about how you learn. Like, what is your best resource for Jeff to be able to figure out, new product, new things? If I give you a laptop that's broken, how do you know how to fix it?
Yeah, well, yeah, go figure. We can keep coming back to that one, right? Yeah, I think I'm probably a happy mix of a lot of different ways of learning. So I've had a number of certifications, still carry a number of certifications on the Cisco side. From CCNP, a couple of the professional level, and then inherently I have a bunch of the CCNAs also. It really depends on time is one of the things. I've got stacks of Cisco books sitting around here that I've read through once and then never looked at again. But they're there if I need them. I have gone away to 2-week training courses for like a global knowledge type scenario for video training and that kind of thing. And then some of the stuff that I've been through from just vendors doing training and that kind of thing. Probably the way that I best learn is honestly kind of just going at my own pace. I know a lot of places have kind of self-paced labs and that kind of thing. And, being able to review the stuff, whether it's at 10 o'clock at night when my day is over and I just, sit down and just kind of want to listen to someone, talk through different fundamentals or different concepts, or, reading or, kind of walking through test scenarios or doing a lab, right, is kind of how I learn. I feel like I learn the best. Trust me, I've failed my fair number of certifications and when I thought that I was walking in there golden. But yeah, I kind of mesh all of them together. Again, it just kind of depends on how much time I have. I have a few certifications expiring this June, and I'm looking at the date going,
I gotta get to that.
I'm gonna need to get rolling on those. Try to maybe take advantage of the discounted or free or whatever it is at Cisco Live or something to get keep those certifications, because the recertification is much easier than losing the certification and then getting it back.
Redoing it, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you made an interesting point. Reading. I look. I read. I'll read blogs. I'll read posts. Most of the time, what I'm looking for is get me from point A to point B, and that's how I'm going to learn it. Not necessarily what all goes in to getting to point A to point B. Just tell me how to get from point. I'll figure out what goes in to getting it there, but just tell me how to do it. So, and I bring this up because, my dad was very here's a book. This is how you figure it out. I learned how to fix cars. I learned how to fix boats. I learned how to, restructure houses and move plumbing from my dad, who was like, hey, here's a book on it. Go read the book. I'm like, I don't want to read the book. I don't want to read the book. Just show me how to do it so I can do it once. So from a reading perspective, are you give me the Cisco manual, or is it more like, hey, I'm going to hit channels to try to figure out from point A to point B what I need to do?
So again, when I was getting some of the baseline certifications, sitting down and reading those books and walking through different labs that they have, and because I actually did a Cisco, it's called Net Academy.
Okay.
So when I was in college, I did some stuff before entering the, I guess, quote, professional world. So I went back to school later. So when I came out of college, I had my degree at 28. And while I was getting my computer information systems degree, going to school during the day, I was actually going to a networking academy, which is typically I was actually the youngest at 28. I was the youngest in the class. Almost everybody was people going back to get certifications that were required. Now I live really close to an Air Force base.
Okay.
Yeah, so I live really close to an Air Force base, and a lot of times people will be required to have a Security Plus. I think that's still floating around.
Okay.
Some of those certifications. So some of the people in the class were contractors required to have the CCNA certification from Cisco. Okay. So they were really just sitting there. Going through the motions, because they had done the stuff for 20 years.
Right. They lived it already.
They had to attend the class. They had to get the certification. And I'll tell you, it was frustrating for me because, people would sit there just with their arms folded the whole time. I'm sitting there taking down as many notes as I can, beating my head against the wall on these labs that we had to do. But yeah, I think it's a little bit. I do not enjoy sitting down and reading a 300-page book.
Okay, that was my question. I was just curious if Jeff watched that. Jeff is printing out the Cisco documentation at home so he can read. Okay.
I am not reading the Cisco SRND for fun for a communications manager. But sometimes I really have that stuff, like I said, for reference. But no, that's not my favorite thing to do. I would like to watch videos. That way I can go back and listen, and I still take notes. I feel like if I write something down, I retain it better.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I don't. I haven't opened those books in a really, really long time.
So you said something interesting. You made a really interesting point. Is that a lot of those folks were there just because they needed the certification, and that's a huge thing in, I think, every industry. I don't think it's just ours from a technical industry, but look, I know people that are designers. I know people that are engineers, structural engineers. I know people in the legal world. And it's interesting because I had a friend who was more than qualified for a position, but didn't have the certification in that position, and got passed over for that. I mean, they ended up actually leaving the company and going somewhere else where they got better opportunities. So good for them. But it's interesting that you say that, because I think it's commonplace where a lot of companies feel like, hey, if you've got the certification, And there's differences. Like, look, if it's a security certification, I get that. Like, there's certain things that you need to have and know to be able to perform a certain job function. But I think there's other things like, just general a certification to say, hey, yeah, I've gone through the class. I may have been doing this for 20 years, but just because you've gone through the class, are you any more educated or marketable or employable than somebody who hasn't gone through that class? And I think that's an interesting topic. From your perspective, and what you've done and the certifications that you have, do you feel, I say it's more of a marketable thing? Do you feel like, hey, going through those certifications has made you more educated than already living that and having that experience in the first place?
Yeah, so I think where you're going is experience versus certification.
It's a hot topic. It's an interesting topic.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's touchy.
So from my standpoint, I was kind of doing the two in parallel.
Okay.
Again, I was outside of the computer technology industry. I mean, I worked in restaurants, managed restaurants and bars and bartended and stuff like that, right? So I came in. So I was doing the education piece. I was doing an internship learning. I was kind of doing those things in parallel.
Okay.
I definitely think experience versus education / certifications is a huge topic. I have hired people who have the highest level Cisco certification and really were not qualified to have the certification.
Okay.
Not sure how they got it, but asking very basic questions, and they would dance their way through an interview, and you would have conversations after the fact and ask them to do something, and it was like, wait, how do you not know how to do that?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, the certifications, I don't knock them because I think that they are valuable. I think it does make people marketable. I think that if you actually do the training and do the courses, there is definitely something valuable with it. But there's also something to be said for just having experience, and I've seen this before and knowing how to fix it. So I think it's kind of a happy. I think there's a mix that's beneficial. You could have someone that's just a great test taker and they can memorize. And they sit down and they hammer out a test. I've seen it before where I've seen guys that I worked with many, many years ago that had every professional level certification for Cisco because they just had it. Did they know everything about security to have the CCNP security, or CCSP, I think is what it used to be called? No, they didn't know anything. But they could sit down, they could read, and they could memorize, and they could take tests.
Right.
So, it's a little bit of a grain of salt, I think, when people see certifications. But then there's a lot of people that put a super heavy weight on them.
Right.
Like I said, I'm kind of in the middle. I think that they're valuable. Okay. When I see someone that has them, it tells me that they committed to something, that they did it. However, However, if I saw someone with certifications and saw someone without certifications with 15 years experience and someone with certifications that has 2 years experience, I'm kind of honestly leaning toward the experienced person because they've seen more and they've dealt with it. And there's going to be those stupid little nuances that are, I know what the issue is and I know how to fix it.
Right. Because they've experienced, they've lived it. And then I think that kind of goes with a lot of, the world and again, not just our industry. You see people that have been in various positions and we get to talk to them all, not just technology, that, have the experience to know, what that nuance is, where this is broken or how to best go about it within the organization or something like that. That was one thing that always kind of got me is, I'm not a person with certifications. I'm not. I mean, I'm the other guy with the 15 years experience, but I'll go toe to toe with anybody with a certification, just because I've been there and I've lived it and I enjoy what I do. Like I was never a computer guy, until I got a computer. And I was like, well, this is the coolest thing. And I'm not going to date myself, so I won't talk about how long ago that was. But ever since then, that was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. And you just kind of learned it and you picked it up and went through it. As far as the classes, I hate school, man. Dude, I can't. I never liked it. I can't sit through a class. It drives me nuts, man. Even if it was a topic I was interested in, it would still drive me nuts. So for me, the certification piece was just like, if I go get it, that's great. I'm not going to learn anything because I don't want to be here. I can't.
Right.
I can't get enjoyment out of learning it that way. So for me, it was always the experience kind of came in. But then also, being somebody that hires somebody as well, kind of the experience has a lot, the certification has a lot, but also, I think that kind of attitude of what you like. Getting a certification is great. Did you get it to get the job, or did you get it because this is what you like to do? And that's always huge for me. And I think that goes from experience, but also with certification. If you like to do it, man, you're going to love, going forward, whether it's certification or just learning. So, I guess it is an interesting topic. We'll put it that way, just because I've seen people passed over for jobs because they didn't have that certification. And I'm like, well, there's a fair world and an unfair world, and it seems to definitely be, sometimes larger companies that have those requirements, that make those, moves to require that certification. And again, there's security steps behind it. They want that certification for certain things. They have to have that. It prevents people from coming in the door that could potentially be malicious. So I kind of get part of it. But, at the same time, I think it leaves a bit of a gap for some companies. And I think I've seen some of that before.
Well, and I think when you get into, some of the reseller aspects, from a Cisco standpoint, to be a Cisco Gold partner, there's pretty specific certification requirements that your employees have to carry, right? I think it's 4 CCIEs. And then you need to have partner-specific certifications across the. It was 4 pillars at Cisco. I'm not sure if they've added any other ones. It was enterprise networking, data center security, and collaboration. In order for resellers to qualify for discounts and to be able to sell, they had to have account managers take certifications to hold spots, and then they'd have field engineers. So it's one of those things that you're demonstrating a level of competency to the vendor,
right?
That, hey, look, we can actually do this, right?
Yeah, it's a good point.
I'm sure outside of the Cisco world, when you get into, some of the other partners that I've worked with, VMware, Veeam, I'm not sure that they have the exact same kind of setup for certifications required. But speaking specifically to the Cisco side, they absolutely do, right? So there is a drive for people to get those certifications. And then once you have those certifications, and you're within an organization, then you have to retain them, which again, I have mine, and I don't want to study for a test, but I feel like I worked too hard 15 years ago to get some certifications. And again, in my previous position, I was doing engineering stuff day in, day out. And so I kind of feel like I need to study, and I don't know, maybe take the CCIE collab written again, just to recert everything underneath and be done with it. But
do you have a large book you could read? Do you have a large book you could read?
Unfortunately, that's multiple large books to read. But no, it's one of those things, man. You and I were on a call today with a guy.
Yep.
And it was clear that guy enjoyed collaboration.
Absolutely. Loved it, dude. I love talking to those people, man. I do.
Was super deep into it.
Yep.
Had the experience, had the certifications, because of course I LinkedIn stalked him. And I mean, he kind of had all of it. And I think that's what you look for, right? When you're trying to hire someone is someone that's passionate about their work and knows the material, certifications are kind of a bonus at that point. And
and you can
you
tell,
move forward,
that guy knew his shit. He was not new to the. He didn't just get out of school. We'll put it that way.
No.
But it is always pleasant to talk to those guys, and I do love talking to those guys. And it's interesting.
Yeah, I saw his certification number. If I had to guess, he's probably been doing this probably about 20 years or so. So
yeah,
it's a relatively low number. So. I know, but like I said, I think there's a happy medium out there. I think a lot of people get hung up on both sides of it, and I honestly think right in the middle is kind of what people need to be looking for.
Yeah, no, totally agree. But and to your point, there are certain positions that you really do need to get that training. I can't jump into a sales world and not know what the hell I'm talking about, or know the lingo that's going to be going on, or have that sort of. I think that. There's certain certifications that do actually teach you very valuable things for your position, like a sales position, where,
Sure.
I think that's one of those things that it's hard to come up greenfield from, I guess would be lack of a better word, maybe if you came from like an engineer type position and moved towards like a sales position, the lingo, the setup. But I think, jumping into a partner relationship like that, I think there's definitely some value in having that background information on those things. So.
Yep, absolutely. I'm excited to hear about the Verify certification.
So I don't know, man. We're still hashing it out, whether it's going to be a certification, whether it's just going to be a little bit of a course. And this is something that I've been thinking about for a while. If you know anything about me, I'm huge on videos. I just kind of talked about this is, just watching a quick video on how to do something is how I learn. I think it's a huge resource. I see a lot of customers use that. I personally use that. Like, I probably learn more on YouTube 5-minute videos than I learn reading any article or blog spot that I've ever gone through. So I'm always big on that, getting somebody directly to the point. But, the idea behind it is, give people the ammunition to be able to use the software